Hey there! Welcome to the Flute 360 podcast. I'm Dr. Heidi Kay Begay, and I'm a flutist, educator, coach, and podcaster. My God-given mission is to serve you. I am passionate about guiding you, the modern-day flutist, to discover your unique voice on and off the stage. The goal of this podcast is to help you thrive, both as an artist and as a musicpreneur. Go ahead and grab some espresso, your favorite notepad, and let's get to it. Today's episode 249 is titled, Let's Talk Flute with Diana Morgan.
Founded in Boston, Massachusetts in 1888, the William S. Haynes Company has been striving to make the finest flutes for 135 years and is the oldest continually manufacturing flute company in the world. The legendary Haynes sound is that of depth, brilliance, and projection. This unparalleled tone, combined with a precise mechanism and scale, brings a personal and distinctive feeling to the player, a profound connection that is unmistakably Haynes. The company's dedication to the Boston tradition of flute making and meeting the demands of a modern flutist is carried through every instrument which bears the iconic Haynes monogram, from the gifted middle schooler to the talented high school student, from the aspiring professional to the skillful and enthusiastic amateur, from the teaching studio to the international stage. The lineup of Amadeus, Q-Series, and custom handmade flutes offers a Haynes for every player. To learn more, visit our website at www.wmshaynes.com or haynesflutes.com. That works too.
Hi, Diana.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. I love your setup behind you.
Thank you so much. I love your setup.
Oh, the cats and the bench. Yeah.
I love cats. My cat is under my bed right now. Otherwise, he could join us at any moment, though. I hope that's cool.
Oh, the more the merrier. I own 4 cats, and I'm actually secretly looking at a 5th cat right now. So, yeah.
Are you really? It's not so secret anymore.
Well, yeah, right? No, my husband will lovingly put down his foot and go, no, crazy cat lady. You are not allowed a 5th cat.
We've reached our limit. Yeah.
Oh, but no, I love the plants and the shapes. Oh, gorgeous.
They're real. And it's really great. It's nice for me to be able to track this string of pearls. I got it when I first started teaching online virtually during the pandemic. And it was just a tiny little baby plant. Oh. And it's kind of it's symbolic in some way of this time.
Oh, yeah. The time of you as a flutist and as a teacher, your own personal and professional growth, your students' growth.
That's really well said. Yes. Yes, Heidi.
Yeah. I love that. That is gorgeous.
Thank you.
Well, I hardly ever do video podcasting, but because of that plant,
Are we going to be featured?
Yeah. And
moment.
And the new criteria for Flute 360 guests will be if you don't have a plant behind you.
A plant or a cat. We need to make this explicit in the...
This is your 360 contract. If these things aren't in place,
That's right. It's not going to work out.
Not going to work.
Thank you.
Well, so that's the episode because, oh my goodness, I'm having such a good time and I want to end on a high note. But if we start, right, it's like Diana's coming in with her beautiful setup and we got to say hi. And no, that's a good sign. If literally in the first 2-3 minutes our synergy is like that, I can't even imagine what the next 40 minutes will be like.
I'm so excited. Thank you for having me.
Oh my goodness. The pleasure is all mine. And girl, you are crazy busy. Like, oh my goodness, you have such a presence on social media. Hats off to you because you are so consistent and I get your jam. Like I know what you're about, how you're trying to serve your community and just like the festivals that you do and the guest artists that you bring in. and how you are building your thriving studio, like, mwah, oh my gosh. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's start there. I think it's really good to just like bring the listeners to the forefront of who you are, your backstory, your origin story, if you want to, and then we can talk about like studio building and some other things that where I want to pick your brain.
Great. Well, I came to LA in 2007 to start a kind of postgraduate degree. It's called a graduate certificate at USC. And, that was really the beginning of my life in LA. And, as a Canadian, I'd only ever dreamed of visiting here and falling in love with palm trees, hearing Jim Walker on all of the soundtracks for the films that I grew up watching was totally surreal. And, being able to work with a mentor like him, who is a true champion of his students, very genuinely committed to teaching. And I was really lucky to be able to work with him and continue my education. So I guess before that, Jeannie Baxtresser was my mentor at Carnegie Mellon University for my master's degree. And she just completely changed my life, my understanding of flute playing, of representing myself in the world, how to make, true connections with colleagues and represent myself in a professional way. This was something she did so well and intuitively. Her sort of emphasis on collaboration, on explicit anti-diva energy, collegiality in her flute studio. These things left a huge mark on me. And I'm so lucky that I got into her studio. Before that, I grew up in Toronto, Canada, and I went to a smaller liberal arts college called Wilfrid Laurier University, just outside of Toronto. And I actually applied as a music therapy major. Coming out of high school, I was really interested in music as a healing modality. And I played guitar, I played piano, and music therapy was really, really interesting to me. Wilfrid Laurier has a really world-class program there. And, I played flute okay. I played pretty well, but certainly my teacher, Dr. Amy Hamilton, was hugely formative. We called her the flute doctor, because she would kind of sit back in our lessons, and I'm pretty sure she had a photographic memory. She would just tell us everything that had gone wrong and how to fix it. And she just was so enthusiastic and positive about the flute when she recommended that I transfer to a performance stream and come back to music therapy at a later time. I thought, okay, whatever Dr. Hamilton wants, I will trust her. And so I transferred to the performance stream in my second year of undergrad, and I had a lot of catching up to do. But I was surrounded by some really serious flute players who had been planning their fabulous careers since they were in high school. So being surrounded by colleagues who were focused and motivated, and then a teacher like Amy really helped me catch up to where I needed to be to get into a program like Jeannie's. So, I went to a performing arts high school that also gave me a great foundation, playing under pressure. I was in the jazz band, and I loved improvising, and that was a big formation for me. I loved being a student, and I wasn't sure about music or, psychology, something like that. So music therapy felt like the right fit, and who knows, maybe I'll return to that at some future point.
Oh my goodness. Yes. I love all of that. And what I was thinking as you were describing your backstory and just musical therapy and how these mentors helped mold you, I was thinking Diana needs her own podcast.
Oh my gosh. I need, like, yes, you need to teach me everything because I know you're busy too. So I need some tips on how to fit that in to a busy life.
Not that I'm adding more to
Do you
your
wake
plate.
up at 5? What time do you wake up? When do you go to bed? Can we get into the nitty gritty here? How many hours of sleep do we need, really?
Yeah, really, right? Oh my goodness. No, just the way you were describing everything and just your choice of words and the pace that you chose, and your soft voice. I was like, oh, I'm so
Is
jealous.
it too soft?
No, like gentle. Not dynamic soft, but gentle. I was like, I'm so jealous. She literally would be like the perfect podcast host.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I'm very honored. Thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. No, that's an amazing backstory. And I saw your face light up when you were talking about each of your teachers, but especially when you were mentioning Jeannie and how it sounded like and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure each teacher came at you and in the right season of Diana's life when it was needed. But it almost sounded like when you were talking about your studies with Jeannie, it was like almost like the perfect teacher in the perfect moment in your life. Yes. I'm getting that vibe.
Yes. You know, I think all of them, in a way, they were perfect for me at the right time. Even the teachers, you know, when I think back to some earlier studies, you know, there were people who maybe at the time I felt like there was some conflict with or challenge in the interpersonal relationship. And no doubt they were also the right thing for me at those times. The challenge of how to give and receive critique for sensitive young people who are or aren't so serious or aware of what's entailed in a performance career. This is huge learnings, and it certainly was for me. Yeah, Jeannie, Miss Backstresser, I can call her Jeannie now. I have permission. This is a big deal, okay? Because she has to give you permission to call her that, and I get it, and I respect that so much. Yes, Miss Backstresser, she had us look around the room when we were in our first studio class and said, congratulations, you all made it. You're all here. Now, do yourselves a favor and make friends with one another. This is a very competitive field, and it's really important to have good friends around you. Everyone here knows what it's like better than anyone else. And gosh, that advice, it was so clear what she expected. And I really do have lifelong friends from that time. I'm sure so much thanks to her. We weren't competing for her affection or praise. It was a really supportive studio. Oh, she also said, if you can't do something and you hear someone else who can, ask them how they do it. You will learn as much from your colleagues as you will from me. And she was genuine, which, gosh, so humble of her to say. And I mean, I did learn so much. The level was exceptional. And I feel so fortunate that worked out for me.
Kudos to her for her to like know her strengths as a teacher and what she brings to the table. But for her to then say like, hey, if that person is like killing triple tonguing, knock on their door, pick their brains, ask them. Because obviously they found a way in order to conquer that technique or whatever.
Yes.
And for her to have that open forum to say, everyone chime in, let's learn from each other. That speaks volumes of who she is as a teacher.
It is. I think everything she did in the way that she did it was so reflective of her sort of passion, her own journey, and her learnings along the way, that she was so generous in sharing with us and very committed to. So I know that I'm speaking on behalf of all of her students when I say what an incredible lineage.
Yeah, very, very cool. And I did not know that you were Canadian.
I am. I am Canadian. Eh?
Yeah. I'm originally from Chicago. And so every now and then that nasally.
I love that accent. I
Yeah.
do. It sounds very like home to me. So I appreciate that.
And when I hear somebody from Minnesota or Wisconsin and I hear like, don't you know, I'm like, oh my goodness, you're from the north. Yep.
Yes, a northerner.
Yes.
That's right.
Oh, shoot. I love that. And so you've been in LA for quite some time. When did you move to LA? Tell me about your performing schedule and all of that.
Sure. So let's see. I got to LA in 2007 and I started my graduate certificate studies at USC with Jim Walker. That was a 2-year program, kind of like an artist diploma. And it was very performance heavy, which was just perfect for what I needed. I knew I needed to really keep working and polishing a lot about my playing. So I also, being Canadian, I knew I needed to stay on a student visa in the States. And there were just the best at the time, the best teachers that for me were here. So staying at USC, working with Jim, 2 years of that was just fantastic. Graduating like everyone does, kind of some question marks. What next? That year, I got married to my wonderful husband of 14 years now. Eddie and I got married in 2009, and we were both musicians. And we met at Carnegie Mellon University when we were there. And Eddie won a percussion job, principal percussion of the Santa Barbara Symphony. He was able to move back from Pittsburgh to LA to play that job. And we got engaged and got married in 2009. And then some, I'd say, really great sort of opportunities arose. Things like the Star Wars in concert tour. That was just an incredible experience, going on tour for the first time all over the United States and then into Canada and Mexico, playing these shows with pyrotechnics and arenas full of screaming fans with costumes. And it was so fun, and such a reminder of like why we practice our instruments for opportunities like that, to just play the best music, John Williams scores, and have these sort of beautiful opportunities to take us all around the world. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Get me back on track, Heidi. Where am I?
We're in California.
Oh, good. Okay. I see my plant. I'm like coming back into my room now. Okay. I'm here again.
No, you're doing great. Yeah, I feel the same way. And even though I've been a podcaster for like close to 5 years, in 2 weeks, actually, Flute 360 will celebrate its 5th year anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a big deal and I'm really proud of it. But to piggyback off of you, like, where am I? I was, sometimes I guest on other people's podcast shows. And last night I was on my friend and his podcast, Chris. And I swear.
Chris Still?
No, Chris Neal.
Okay. Chris Still's very cool too. Chris Neal. All right.
Yeah. So you have to check that out, Resilient Self. And I looked over at my husband, Eric, and I was just like, if anyone were to hear that conversation, they would be like, she's been doing this for 5 years. Like, it's no big deal, like.
That's so funny.
Yeah. What's a sentence? And the rambling got out of hand. So, yeah, right. I empathize with you. It happens. It's a real thing.
It happens.
Yeah.
So, I'm thinking back to what else was kind of happening for me. 2010 was the first year that I had this opportunity to shadow the then director of Jim Walker's annual summer masterclass, Beyond the Masterclass. And this was happening at the Colburn School. Greg Millerin was doing a fantastic job. And I was shadowing him, kind of learning all these aspects of what was involved in running a project like that. And this is because Greg had won a position in Minnesota, where he is now playing with the orchestra. So I took over for Greg and had this I've been directing Jim's annual flute week for, since 2010 now. That's been hugely formative. And I've learned so much about organization and, watching Jim's leadership, watching the energy. The man works harder than really most human beings. And all of his students know this to be true. He also doesn't complain about it. It's like, he is so happy to be busy. And that sort of attitude, I often think of him when I'm feeling particularly challenged by the commitments. And, if I get a little edge of maybe feeling a little sorry for myself or something, like a little depleted, I do often call on the energy, the vitality of Jim Walker, and just over time, these opportunities I've had to observe that in action. And, I think teaching and performing are really big parts of what are important to me. So is being a mom and a wife and my family. So the teaching kind of evolved over time. And when I first moved to LA and kind of started building this life here, I was really driving all over the city. LA is a really big city. So you can imagine how much time I was spending in my car. This is very normal. And I still do spend a lot of time in my car. I have a really good sound system though. So it's really enjoyable. I get to listen to some good tunes all the time. But the point is, I was driving all over the place and teaching at various schools. I was subbing a lot. So I told people I loved teaching, but I was getting referred for music school gigs, and that was fine, but it was a challenge. And then, what was so great, my husband Eddie won this audition he took for Cirque du Soleil, and they had a new production opening in Hollywood. It was a resident show. It was going to run for 10 years. So it was like he had won the lottery. This was a really significant shift in the sort of universe for us. And he had a really great run with that. I think it was maybe 2 years that it stayed afloat, and then it went completely bankrupt. I hope that's okay to say. I'm sure it is. This is public knowledge that the show was so incredible and so expensive and over budget. And
I see.
8 shows a week is just too many, I believe they discovered, to generate the ticket sales that they were expecting for this. So
I'm sure the production cost was like way up here.
Astronomical.
With the musicians, the dancers, the set, the costumes.
It was props. At the, it was where the Oscars are. Formerly the Kodak Theater in Hollywood. So even the venue costs alone. And it was a great production. We met some lifelong friends. And what it allowed me to do was just tell my students, listen, I'm going to be teaching from home. Home was, our 1-bedroom apartment on the west side. It was rent controlled. And we were able to just tell students, listen, please come to me if you'd like to keep working together. And I was so fortunate because I had many who came to my home, and from there I was able to just kind of continue building this presence. So much of teaching is referral based. If people have a good experience working with you, they tell their friends. And I've really had to do, I'd say I'm lucky to have not had to spend too much time or energy worrying about self-promotion. Although since I started DM Flute Studio 2 years ago now, in September of 2020, when I launched this virtual program, right, the pandemic was shutting everything down, and I had been teaching virtually since maybe 2014. I moved to San Diego to play in the symphony on what was supposed to be a temporary, 3-month contract that kept getting extended for a period of approximately 4 years while they completed their music director search and then had various auditions for the position that is currently filled, that has been filled quite recently, actually. So I was able to audition for a substitute position there for Rose Lombardo and Yahya Ling, who was the conductor at the time, and I was given this contract. So I was living down in LA. My husband was up here, San Diego. My husband was still in LA, and I was teaching students online virtually. So I did have experience in that setting. I knew about external mics and having copies of all my music digitized so I could follow along with scores. And I was comfortable with the tech side of things. So I felt like when the pandemic happened and everything was shutting down, it was just a really good time for me to make my online presence known. And with that has come the sort of task of being a little more self-promotional than I might be drawn to. So the fact that I do have students who have been introduced to me through Instagram and Facebook, who literally found me on those platforms, is obviously a sign of the times and a sign of the power of those tools for connecting us. And I've really had to embrace that side of the job, even if it, aspects of that make me a little uncomfortable. But I do very passionately believe in the quality and the product. So I do have to get the word out. And that seems to be the best way now.
Yeah, I love that. Are you looking for the perfect flute or piccolo to take your music to the next level? Look no further than the Carolyn Nesbaum Music Company in Plano, Texas. Since 1996, we've been the go-to source for flutists of all levels, with an unrivaled selection of flutes, piccolos, low flutes, and head joints from dozens of top makers. But we're more than just a music store. We're your complete resource for everything flute related, with sheet music, instrumental accessories, teaching resources, and health information all under one roof. And our in-house staff of experts is always ready to help you find exactly what you need to achieve your musical goals. At the Carolyn Nesbaum Music Company, we're committed to excellence in all aspects of our business, from our top quality products to our friendly personalized service. And with an in-house repair staff certified in all major brands, you can trust us to keep your instruments in top condition for years to come. Follow us on social media to stay up to date on the latest news and events, and visit our website at fluteforyou.com to shop our extensive selection of flutes, piccolos, and more. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned pro, the Carolyn Nesbaum Music Company is your one-stop flute shop. So because a lot of 360ers will come to me, one big pain point that they will convey in messages and text messages, and I'm so thankful for their honesty, is how do I create these new opportunities for myself? And I can, as lovingly as I, will put it, you have to promote yourself in some capacity. You have to let people know of your services or of your products so that way the word can get out. Right. But I think we get, and I empathize with them to a certain degree, because I know that like in music school, typically that is not taught to us. We are taught how to play a beautiful C major scale in tune with luscious tone. We know our excerpts, we know the flute repertoire, but the business side of things isn't necessarily as taught when we were in school. It sounds like you and I are about the exact same age.
Okay.
because I've been married to my husband for 15 years and we got married in 2008. So
Oh,
when we were in school, that wasn't a thing, but now it's starting to trend a little bit more. Like
yes.
Berkeley is starting to pick up
Yes.
the music business side of things. UNT is starting to have some sort of services for graduates as they are about to graduate and post-graduation for career changes and shifts and helping them think outside of the box when it comes to their music career, et cetera, et cetera. So seeing those things and those curriculums pop up is very exciting for me.
Yes.
So for anyone who's around our age or older and they did not have that training, what advice would you give them when it comes to getting over that hurdle of, ooh, I don't want to self-promote, it feels icky, I don't know how to do it, I don't know how to go about it. And you sort of hinted at it, but because you said, like, I really believed in the service, I really believed in the product.
Yeah.
So because you believed in how you could help people through the
Yes.
studio, you
Yes.
probably, I don't want to put words in your mouth,
Yeah.
but you probably didn't feel like it was this like sleazy salesperson because you knew the value that you brought to the table.
That's it. That's it, Heidi. So, gosh, I really also did so much research leading into this launch. So I was very confident by the time I was promoting DM Flute Studio. I just knew the value of what I was offering. The program itself it had all of the elements that I needed as a student in place: live performance, feedback in private lessons with a video component. So you're recording yourself every week and listening to those recordings with a teacher. You're playing for guest artists, 2 guest artists every 10 weeks. You're playing from memory in a recital every 10 weeks.
Wow.
And making a recording of that so that you have like potentially professional footage of yourself by the time you finished one term with me. And I'm sure I'm forgetting things, but like there are a lot of things in place that I just realized, I'm very passionate about this, and you are just checking in with people and seeing what the response is like, which is also validating. If I look back on when I launched, and in 2 days the program was fully booked, and I'd had to add a second studio class day to the plan. So it was a very strong response to basically an email campaign and a Facebook and Instagram post that I put up. And so that was very reassuring. And of course, you're checking in with the market you're in. You're making sure that you're not either charging too much or too little based on your colleagues. And knowing what the right thing is to charge also requires trust. So I have colleagues here who I trust enough to say, what do you think of this? Can we talk? I made a bunch of phone calls. I showed people materials and got some feedback on them. How's the tone of this striking you? And I think soliciting feedback and then being the kind of person other people would be comfortable sharing with and getting your perspective. I think this give and take is such an important part of just relationships and also of being a successful musician.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic feedback when the class book's out and you have to add on extra features. Good for you. I mean, yeah. I mean, right there. I mean, that will show you what the industry wants, what the market needs.
Right.
And yeah, no, you hinted, or you didn't just hint, you gave out some beautiful gems where anyone literally like stop this tape, or listen to how old I am. Stop the tape and
Stop the
rewind.
tape.
Take out the piece of paper and pencil and write down those things, because you mentioned market research. You mentioned collaborating and picking your mentors and your colleagues' brains. Just asking and getting that insight, because you're not building, like whenever I build something in my product suite, I'm not building it for me. I might think those features are cool, right? But I'm building it for my customer. What does my customer need?
Yes.
So you have to think and you have to be inside of their head. You have to walk in their shoes and you have to know what's going on in their world. And if you don't
Yes.
know that, then you can't form something for them that's going to bring them that value for them to actually say, yes, I want to enroll in that.
That's right. I think a big part of this that I'd like to just share as well is that my personal experience has included orchestral playing, and I'm very grateful for that. Flute and piccolo.
Mm.
It's not the only way I have enjoyed and been able to make a living. It's very important to me to represent myself as a very dedicated teacher and freelance musician. So these careers are, they're maybe not for everyone, but I think it's very important to acknowledge that not everyone will be playing principal flute in a major orchestra. And the question becomes, what are we doing? What else are we good at? And what else can we take pride in building and creating? And then what opportunities come from that sort of process? And my goodness, I am so fortunate to have arrived perhaps at a point in my life where I have, these areas that I'm very dedicated to that are allowing me to support my family and my baby, and to really enjoy music and connecting with serious students. So I'm also, I teach people who want to be principal flute players, but I also teach people who want to be better freelancers and who are looking for advice on how to network in a new city when they've arrived. That's not about audition taking. That's about something else that is very important, even when you are audition taking. but those elements, that's been a huge learning for me. And I'm very committed to helping students really at any level, any age. And I have a 78-year-old student right now who is in a community orchestra. She's a retired dentist, and she just bought a new Haynes because she practices every day and she deserves it. I love teaching all types, and it's very rewarding for me.
Yeah. Oh, completely. Yes. And I couldn't agree more. And sometimes my adult students, I will look at them at the end of a lesson and I will say, do I need to pay you for that hour? Just because of like their wisdom that they bring into the lesson, where I'll say, oh, let's, work on this phrase or whatever fluty thing we're working on. Something comes up like as we're wrapping up, or how you get to know your students on a personal level, right?
Yeah.
And so life comes up in lessons and things like that. And he'll just like drop this like gem or golden nugget into the conversation. I'm like, oh my gosh, that came from like years of experience, like life lessons about patience or about discipline or about whatever. I'm like, oh my gosh, do I have to pay you now for this coaching call? Because not that I treat my lessons as a coaching call. That sounds really wonky. But you know what I mean? We learn from each other. And so like, I had a student in Lubbock when I was getting my DMA, and she has her doctorate in psychology. And just the way she knows how the brain works and everything, I was like, oh, Jessica, that's amazing.
Teach me everything. Yeah, I love it.
My mind is now open, and I have a 65-year-old student out in California, and I learned so much from her. And we need each other, and that's one of the biggest soapboxes that I'm always on is you can't do it alone. You need people in your orbit to make things happen, for you to step outside your box or to gain that courage, or you get it. But it's all about people. I'm so thankful that your students have you, and they are so blessed to have you and your expertise and your wisdom, so that way you can shape them accordingly to whatever path they are on, whether it is the gigging or whether it is, orchestral life, things like that. It really sounds like you're meeting them where they are at.
It is, it is people first and then the player. And I think it's so relational, that meeting for a lesson. And I find that when the relationship is good and, people are at ease, and then they play better, and then you can do more. So it's all, it's all connected. And yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So you mentioned one of your students is a dentist, and she purchased a Haynes flute.
Yes.
And I would be remiss not to mention that you are a Haynes artist.
That's right. Proudly so. Proudly so.
That's amazing.
Gosh.
Can you tell us about your Haynes story and what it's like to be a Haynes artist?
Of course. So Haynes is, I think they're just making the best flutes right now, and, have been for a very long time as a sort of heritage company. I am so lucky to be an artist, and I do have a lot of students who buy Haynes flutes, so I think it's mutually beneficial. I am truly stand behind the product. I went to a convention in San Diego when I was playing there in the symphony, and the NFA was in San Diego, and I walked around to a bunch of booths, and I was testing instruments, and I just kept coming back to Haynes. I did some blind testing for flutists at the convention who I really trust, and all of them chose the Haynes. They said, whatever that is, you should buy it right now. And then not only did I buy it, but everyone in the section in San Diego bought basically the same flute that summer.
No way.
Truly. So, that was very cool. And since then, Haynes has supported DM Flute Studio a lot. They in the sense that I want my students to have access to the best teachers, and Haynes has supported many of their guest artists as guests for my program. So my students are hearing and meeting all of these teachers who are just incredible mentors. And that has meant a lot and been such a real support to both myself and my studio since 2020, when I became connected with Haynes. And you know what else I'm recalling? They provided some instruments for community members who I teach through the Colburn Community School. So there are a number of students through the Jumpstart program who are provided free lessons, and I am their first flute teacher. And this was really one of my favorite classes to teach. It was so delightful, and I love having students from the very beginning, all the best habits, and they were playing these instruments that I just was like, this is tough. It's already tough, and these are not easy to play on. So I reached out to Haynes. I said, gosh, I'd love to get some new instruments for these very deserving community members. Any way you could sponsor that, make that happen. And they did. So this entire class got these gorgeous, brand new instruments that were theirs to play. And that was the beginning of my true love of the Haynes company.
That's phenomenal. Oh my goodness. And I would just get so giddy as a teacher to see that gift being given to my students.
You got it. That's right.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I won't say my first flute, but it was not a Haynes. And that would have
we
been
all remember
really
our
nice.
First flute.
Yeah.
If only.
If only. But what generosity and that warmness and just that giving. It speaks volumes on the company and who they are. And I hold us. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Yes. No, that gesture and that commitment really, I just thought, what can I do for you guys? Like, put me to work. And of course, then the pandemic happened, and I'm sure there are ways that we'll be collaborating more in future, but they have been really supportive. So
Yeah. Yeah, and they have really neat projects on the back burner and the things that they do. Like you said, the Jumpstart program and just featuring young artists, young
Yes.
Haynes artists. I think that's really neat. And they hold a
Yes.
special place in my heart because the podcast, like we were talking about, I guess it was recording, it wasn't even pre-recording, but we're getting into year 5, and I've worked with over 30 different companies through sponsorships for Flute 360. And
Wow.
Haynes holds a very, very special place in my heart because they were my number one, the very first business who said yes to a sponsorship package.
Oh.
Yeah, and it holds a lot of weight because think
Yeah.
about it now
Yeah.
as a podcasting coach, I am multi-passionate and yes, I teach flute and I perform, but I also
Right.
help musicians build their own stage through podcasting
Love
and then
it.
helping them to build different income streams running in and out of their business portfolio. And corporate sponsorships is a stream that's substantial for 360. And so because of
Right.
that, because I figured out how to do that um, pretty well, I get to teach podcasters how to tap into that, possible income stream. And every week, and I tell this to Corinne, literally because of that first sponsorship and that first yes from Haynes, I get to say once a week, you can do it. I only had just 500
Right.
downloads a month when I started off, and Haynes
Right.
even said yes. And Haynes is a notable international flute maker in Boston. And they said yes to just, I'm using a lot of air quotes here, just a teacher outside of Dallas, Texas. What can that mean for
Mm.
you and for your platform?
Mm. Mm.
And that generosity always comes back to you tenfold. Because
That's
yes, it
right.
was just a monthly sponsorship that they said yes to for a series of 4 or 6 episodes. I forget the parameters. But how many years later am I saying their name time and time
Right.
again
Right.
because
Exactly.
because they believed in me, because
Yes.
they went out of
Yes.
their way to support me, and not
Yeah.
just me, but the whole flute community and anyone who gets value from 360.
That's right. That's right.
So it's this immense ripple effect.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said.
Yeah. So it just gives me goosebumps again, going back to your students and getting those brand new flutes. I can just imagine their eyes lighting up like a kid in a candy store of just being over the moon.
They deserved it. And
Yeah.
so grateful to Haynes for making that possible.
Yeah. That's so cool. So I don't know if you know this, but usually when I wrap up conversations, I always ask my guest what your pick of the day is. So it can be anything under the sun. Like my pick of the day is X plant. I don't even know the species of plant that's behind you, but it could be your favorite TV show, movie, app that you are using on your smartphone right now. What would your pick be?
Oh, wow. Okay. My pick is, I hope this is not too wild, is Cara oranges.
Oh, okay.
Is food an option?
Food is totally
Should
an
this
option.
be more like flute related?
No, it's literally, if anything, it should not be flute related.
Okay. So I just got very insecure that I'm saying it wrong because I'm Canadian. So is it Cara? I believe so. Have you heard of this type of orange?
I have not.
Okay. It is exceptional. And in California, it is citrus season. These are the most succulent, juicy, delicious, bright, kind of almost like a grapefruit color in the pulp. And I am living for them right now.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. I think everyone needs to get on this tip right now. The Cara orange.
I love it. No, I had to type it in because I didn't know.
Is it a thing, Heidi?
I did not know that Cara. I mean, I knew that there are different types of oranges because there's like blood red orange.
Yes.
Like
yes.
I love those. And then you have like your standard orange, but I never heard of Cara. And so I just Googled it and it's Cara, Cara. And you're right, it looks almost like a grapefruit.
It's very exceptional, very sweet, right in season, and I recommend everyone get out there if depending on when this comes out and airs. I think we need to all check it out.
Okay. Yeah, the Cara orange has nodes of sweet berry flavors.
Right?
Yes, please sign me up.
Yes, please. Yeah.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. Yeah, thank you for that. I love food picks. They are, actually, when I said pick, here's a dorky side of me. I could literally see you picking the orange.
We don't have any trees of our own, but it does work.
It does work.
It could in California, I'm sure.
Oh, right? Oh, I love that. Yeah. I don't even know my pick for the day. I'm thinking. Well, anything that literally my introduction to Flute 360 is take out a piece of paper and pencil and get your favorite espresso drink. So I guess my pick for today will be espresso, since I was sipping on espresso as we were chatting. And to have a good espresso set, I love the glass. Is that
serious?
The mason jar?
It is. It is.
It's cute. Yeah, that looks a lot healthier than
teaching.
My brown foam here. But espresso is my favorite. I absolutely love it. I love putting the espresso in if I have the time, putting it into like a Bialetti onto the stovetop. But if I needed something quick, Nespresso, and getting an espresso machine with the pods, great. And you can have the different flavors and stuff. That's my jam. That's what I'm picking.
I need to get onto that because we've been using a Chemex, and it's like a 20-minute commitment, and it's just not. We can't. My husband and I talked about that this morning. It's too much of a commitment.
That is a commitment. 20 minutes?
No, it's very good coffee, but we need, I think, a button to press. And
I could shower and get dressed and hair.
No, I know. Serious about our coffee over here.
Yeah, the Nespresso machine is like pod, button, press and go. But the thing is, I always get nervous when I recommend that, because then my big disclaimer is like, make sure you get the recycling bags, because just throwing out a bunch of pods, like breaks my heart.
Certainly.
But yeah, so there you go. Nespresso is my pick for today.
All right.
Awesome. Well, I know you've got a baby, and she or he. I apologize. I don't know.
No, he. It's his nap time. Right about now. So this is perfect timing.
What's his name?
His name's Owen.
Owen. Oh, that's a cute name.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I know it's Owen's nap time, so I don't want to keep you from that time with him. But thank you so much for just sitting here with me and talking with me. And it's been lovely to get to know you.
Same with you, Heidi. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Diana.
Lovely to meet you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, Flute 360er. Are you tired of practicing endlessly with no real guidance or community to support you? Do you dream of taking your flute playing and career to new heights, but you're not sure where to start? Look no further, because the Flute 360 Accelerator Program is here to help. Our program is designed with the modern-day flutist in mind, providing you with the tools and resources you need to succeed in today's music industry. With our mastermind group, masterclass, and pocket coaching, you'll have access to personalized support and guidance every step of the way. Say goodbye to the isolation of practicing alone, and hello to a thriving community of like-minded flutists who will support and motivate you. Our evergreen program allows you to join at any time, so you can start accelerating your success as a flutist right now. Don't wait any longer to take your flute playing and career to the next level. Enroll in the Flute 360 Accelerator Program today by clicking the link in the show notes below. The next meetup is scheduled for Saturday, May 27th, 2023, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Time. Remember, though, you can enroll at any time. We can't wait to see you there. Thank you for listening to the Flute 360 podcast. I hope that the content has served you well. Please subscribe, rate, and review through your favorite podcast app, such as Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio, among others. Thank you. Let's talk about flute.